Ruchem Aboim B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Smith Shlita on Shabbos, Mitzvos, in a hospital. To have the great seudah sponsoring a shir called Irgun Shir Torah at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshiva.com. Harav Smith.
We recently heard a shiloh where someone's wife was in the hospital. She had a baby, but it's a good simcha. But the question was, she was in Manhattan. Until he gets there, it could be an hour and a half, 2 hours after this man. And what should she do? Should she make her own havdalah? Could she eat before havdalah? Then we had a really interesting shiloh where someone knew of a choleh in the hospital. Mamash, he was amein halachos, he had no family, and he couldn't make kiddush. But he wanted to make kiddush for this choleh. Be a big mitzvah. But the problem is, the logistics, he couldn't make kiddush on Shabbos for him. Could he make kiddush for the choleh like a half hour before this man, and then he'll drive home, and he'll be home for davening and for the seudah at home? Can you be mוציא someone in kiddush if for you it's not yet Shabbos? You're on makaber early Shabbos like the choleh was. We had a shiloh where someone only had one lechem. There was not lechem mishna. What do you do about lechem mishna? So as you notice, we have a interesting sugya today where people are in the hospital or rehabilitation center, and there are three groups of mitzvah that a person has to do: the mitzvah of kiddush, seudah, Shabbos, and havdalah. And the shiloh is negeya for the choleh and sometimes for the visitor. But the truth is, this is also a good review of hilchos kiddush, seudah, Shabbos, and havdalah for healthy people. So sit back and enjoy. As we'll see, it's a beautiful sugya. But one point we have to be magdim, that this is very much an all-inclusive sugya. Because as we know, noshim are mechuyavos in kiddush. There's no difference, men and women, regarding kiddush. Regarding lulav and shayfa, there is a difference. And even havdalah will soon see, perhaps they're also chayiv. But the point is, like the Mechaber says in Shulchan Aruch, Reish Ayin Aleph Siv Beis, noshim chayavos b'kiddush, and they have the identical chiyav kiddush like men. So really it's the geya to patients, both men and women. Now let's get a little more practical. Regarding havdalah, there is a version. Women are very scared to make their own havdalah, drink the wine, forget it. But regarding kiddush, there's absolutely no shiloh whatsoever. An isha, chatchila, could make her own kiddush and drink the wine or grape juice. There's no shiloh. Now, of course, in a regular situation, the woman is yaitz with her husband, the lechem im toivim. But an isha that has to make kiddush in a hospital, whatever, there's no shiloh whatsoever. She could make the regular kiddush and drink the wine. More so, a daughter, or any woman for that matter, can make kiddush for a woman in the hospital, lechatchila. Because regarding kiddush, women and men are absolutely equal. If it's negeya, let me just very briefly outline the making a kiddush. Now, of course, at home, we try to do every mitzvah kiddush, of course, also in the most mehudadik way. We have a beautiful silver becha and the best wine. But in a situation, in a hospital, we'll do the best we could do. So let me make the minimum, and whoever it's negeya to, it's very simple. You don't need a silver becha in the hospital, any glass or rubber. We'll soon see, even disposable actually is good, but you don't need the fancy becher. All you need is a cup that holds a revius of wine. Now it's hard to say exactly, but a revius anywhere between 3 and 5 ounces. Havdalah lechatchila, try to get a glass or a rubber cup, but if that's not shaykh, we paskin mikid din, even a disposable cup, whether it's a plastic cup or a foam cup, even a paper cup, as long as it holds a revius of wine. I don't think there's a cup in this world that does not hold a revius of wine, except for a schnapps cup. But if you hold a revius is 3 ounces, 4 ounces, there's no cup that's less than that. So basically, try to, if you know before Shabbos you're going to make kiddush in the hospital, take along an unbreakable plastic cup. Better would be a cup that's not disposable, but even disposable is good. The only issue that there is someone could have a little bit grape juice in a small bottle, and he got a big cup, and he fills it, it's not to the top. So, lechatchila, we try to have a choleh. But don't forget, a choleh is not ma'akiv. So, put the grape juice in the cup and make kiddush like that. Now, someone said, what's wrong if I add water, so at least the choleh is full? There's a problem, because grape juice, Rav Shlomo Zalman holds, when you add water, it might lose its shem grape juice, because grape juice is not like wine that could absorb water. So better don't fill the cup, and make sure that the grape juice is a guffen, and you yaitz a kiddush. Now, if you want to be a real lamdan, what you could do is get ice and put the ice into the grape juice. See, ice fills up the kais, but doesn't yet dissolve, so it won't really disturb the chshivas of the grape juice. But that's not ma'akiv at all. Basically, it's not so hard to find a cup and grape juice and make kiddush. How much do you have to drink? So again, women are not big drinkers of wine or grape juice. So a malay lugma of between 1.5 and 2 ounces is fine. How much is 1.5 or 2 ounces? Very simple. A schnapps cup typically is 1 ounce. So 2 schnapps cups is all you need. Now I hope it's clear, it's not so hard in the hospital to make kiddush and be yaitz lechatchila. Of course, amein b'roisha, if you know you're going to be in the hospital, a person going to be in the hospital on Shabbos, so prepare before Shabbos a bottle of grape juice with an appropriate kais, and there, that's fine. Now, questions that come up, which we're not so familiar with, let's say the choleh can eat or drink. Hopefully it's a temporary situation. They have to, before a testing or after surgery or right before childbirth, they can't eat or drink. So lamaisa, the question is there an ichiev on for a person that's not going to eat or drink to make kiddush? Is there an inyan to hear kiddush from someone else? So the emphasis is an integral part of kiddush, likuva. Kiddush has to be mamakam seudah. The Shulchan Aruch says, the Farish, in Reishai and Gimel, if you person made kiddush and didn't eat, he wasn't yoy to the kiddush. So typically, kiddush has to be mamakam seudah. Now we are makel, even cake is good enough, bimkaim seudah, it's not perfect. Someone once asked me, he thought that if he makes kiddush and eats cake, he's yoy to seudah Shabbos. It's not true. Kiddush mamakam seudah is like a bimkaim koyin. You don't become a koyin if you get bimkaim koyin. So you yoytza makam seudah, but you're not yoytza the seudah. In fact, we paskin b'shas atchak, a person could even be yoytza kiddush with a revius of wine. But lamaisa, kiddush has to be bimkaim, some type of a seudah, and that's why the Shari Tshuva in Reish Ayin Beis Sif Zayin says if someone is unable to eat, or he doesn't have wine or pas, and he can't make kiddush and makam seudah, he is not mechuyev in kiddush. So theoretically, if someone cannot eat or drink, they're not mechuyev to make kiddush or even hear kiddush. You know what that's like? It's like the Shari Tshuva. It's like all of us on Yom Kippur Shechal B'Shabbos. We don't make kiddush on a kais just because we can't do better. If you can't eat or drink, there's no chiyuv kiddush. You'll say, but the choleh is eating. I mean, he's alive. Maybe it's a feeding tube. Maybe it's intravenous. That's not called achila. He's not eating it. It's not in his stomach. It's in the veins. So basically, a choleh that's not unable to eat or drink is pata from kiddush and doesn't have to bother to hear kiddush from someone else because it's not really working. I did see if someone is eating but can't eat wheat or wine or grape juice, but they eat other foods, for them it's kedai to hear kiddush from someone else, even though they don't have the makam seudah, but that's kedai. I must add that lamaisa, even if someone is potter from kiddush, all is not yet lost. Because lamaisa, as Mr. Brewer says in Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Cotton Bays, the chiyuv deraisa of kiddush is not lav dafka ala kois. The chiyuv deraisa is B'dvarim. What does that mean, b'dvarim? So the Rashba in Tshuva in Chelik Dal Reish Sadekei says you could say Bo Yineitzei Likra Shabbos, or you could daven Shmoyne Esrei, or Vayechulu. Lamaisa, when someone can't make kiddush or is not mechuyev in kiddush, he's definitely still mechuyev in kiddush deraisa, and that's kiddush b'dvarim. Again, whether it's davening or saying Vayechulu. In fact, Rabbi Kiva Eiger in the beginning of Reish Ayin Aleph says Yom Kippur Shechal B'Shabbos, we should all be yoytze kiddush b'dvarim by having a mind, by davening. And his Edom, some Seifa in the Gillion there, points out that mitzvah sichas kavana. You have to have a mind. Don't forget, when we daven, we don't necessarily have a mind to be yaitzu with kiddush b'dvarim. But if someone knows he can't make kiddush, minimally, when you davens or vayachulu, you should have a mind to be yaitzu the mitzvah deraisa of kiddush b'dvar. I saw a kiddush, the Shmir Shabbos, in Nun Beis, Kuf Yudal, quoting Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, that the same applies to a day kiddush. See, I thought that the night kiddush is the b'dvar is mechuyev. He says even day kiddush. If you can't make it ala kais, even though it's only a gafen, at least say something b'yaitza kiddush b'dvar. A choleh sometimes has to wait for someone to come to make kiddush for them. Sometimes they're waiting and they're getting hungry. So let me be clear. Mr. Bura, in the end of Reish Pei Tes, quoting a Chayodam, says that if someone is waiting for kiddush, but they have no kiddush as of yet, and they're weak, Adam Cholosh, they're allowed to eat before kiddush. Chazal waived the issue of eating before kiddush, b'makayim of a Adam Cholosh. So I believe, and it's posh, it's certainly a chayla is more of a heta than an Adam Cholosh. If he's waiting for the kiddush to come till his anikel comes, his anikel's not even so responsible. It'll come now, it'll come later. So avada, let him eat. Don't forget, the most important mitzvah for a chayla is nishmart manafshei seichem v'chaybem. So let him just eat before kiddush, and when the kiddush comes, he'll be yaitze then. What happens sometimes in a hospital, there's no wine or grape juice. So Baruch Hashem, in our local hospitals, the wonderful Bikur Cholim are doing an incredible mitzvah. But let's say a person's in an out-of-town hospital, there's no wine or grape juice. So we have an halacha that we think is not relevant, but it is, and that's Reish Ayin Beis Sif Tes, making kiddush ala pas. Basically, to make let me outline how it's done. People forget. The procedure is the first thing you do when you make kiddush ala pas, you wash. That's right. Mishnah Berurah says that in Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Katan Samach Aleph briefly, but that's the first thing you wash. Don't forget, the minig of the Ramah, it's a pliya, but the minig of the Ramah was to wash, then make kiddush, and then make a motzi. Why? Because sometimes you'd have to do that when you have no wine, as they state in Mishnah Berurah. Okay, that's not the minig of most of Klal Yisrael, but when someone has to make kiddush ala pas, he washes netilas yadayim. Zok the Mishnah Berurah and Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Katan Mem Aleph. Put your hands on the challah cover. The challah cover is covering the challahs. Say vayachulu. Before I make a motzi, uncover the challah. Put both hands on the two challahs. Make a motzi on the challahs that are uncovered. Then recover the challah. Put your hands on top of the cover and make the bracha of kiddush. And please don't make a second hamotzi, because you're so used to it. How could you eat before a motzi? Don't forget you made a motzi earlier, and that motzi will go on now eating as well. When no wine, grape juice, or even challah is available, it's mistavra if you have enough cake that you feel would be kaviyas seudah, that you can make a motzi. I think you can make a motzi on that. You can make a kiddush on that as well. Very often a visitor who's doing a mitzvah comes to make kiddush for a chayla, and they have a long walk home. So they don't have usually such a situation. It's Friday night, they're making kiddush at home for their family, but it's a long walk. Can they make kiddush for the chayla, drink a little wine, maybe have a piece of cake or two, and then have a cup of coffee, so you can feel you go home with a little more energy? In other words, we know by day we rely on cake as bimkaim seudah. Does that work for night as well? So I didn't find anybody says no. In fact, Mr. Berurah and Reish Ayin Gimel Sif Katan Chafei, speaking about the night kiddush, says you could be yaitzu with cake. So the Shmir Shabbos and Undal Chabeis points out that mistavra hu adin, it works for night as well. Even though we might argue that kiddush at night be'ikroi is deraisa, unlike by day. So maybe it has to be more chomer. But the Shmir Shabbos says that lamaisa there's no difference night or day. I did see machmirim, but again, if this is important for the chayil to have kiddush, we could be saimach on this that you can either drink a revius of wine or a kazayis of cake, and the visitor is also yaitz a kiddush. Comes home again, we'll soon see he makes for his family else the mitzvah of arvis. A chayla lamaisa that can't make kiddush, so we'll soon see there's an eitzah of arvis we're making for them. But again, I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with a woman making kiddush and drinking the grape juice. Again, by havdalah, there's an aversion. We'll soon see why. But lamaisa, a woman could make kiddush. If lamaisa, the isha or even a choleh man can't make kiddush, so here we come to an important sugya, and that is like the follows: if I make kiddush for the choleh, but I'm yoytze with that kiddush, I eat cake, so there's no shayla. The question is, if lamaisa the mekadesh is not eating, can we make kiddush just for the choleh? So I want to be magdam one important point. Lamaisa, it's hard enough to be sick. It's harder to be in a hospital. But the worst of it is when a person on Shabbos in the hospital and can't do mitzvahs. The person feels dysfunctional. So besides the mitzvah of arvis that we should make kiddush for a choleh, but it's a tremendous chesed. You know, ruach ish yechalka machaleyu. If a choleh is depressed, he doesn't have the energy to fight the machla. So lamaisa, besides the chesed and the mitzvah shabbat, it's pashut a vote of confidence. So I'm going to tell you right now that we're going to go through the sugya and we're going to find any cooler that there is. And habaycha yivchar, but I think it's important that people should know that the mitzvah we do for a choleh is more than just the arvis or the chesed. It's a tremendous chesed pashut for their health. So we're going to try to mention all the shittas, even though some might be coolest, but habaycha yivchar. I can't make a birchas hanenin just for you if I'm not eating. Because birchas hanenin, you have to make your own. There's no arvas. But as the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Dav Chav Tes, by a mitzvah, the klal is yotza motzi, which really means arvas, I can make just for you. Let's say I am making kiddush for my family an hour from now. I don't want to be yotza in the hospital, but I can make just for a choleh. How can I make for him? Teretz is, that's arvas. And the lumdus is, since Kol Yisrael Reivim, I have to make sure that I make kiddush. I have to make sure that you make kiddush. If you can't, I make for you. So I can make kiddush just for you before I make kiddush, or, which is not so practical, but after I finish my seudah, I'll go to the hospital and make kiddush for the choleh, just for the choleh. Now, I'm not mechuyev in that kiddush, I made it already. But that's the kiddush of arvus, that I can make just for a choleh, whether it's before my kiddush or after. Of course, don't make it too late. The choleh has to eat and go to sleep. But theoretically, I can make it after my seudah. Why can't I make a shehakol just for a choleh? Because that's birchas hanenin. And by birchas hanenin, there's no din of arvos. And the Shulchan Aruch and Reish Ayin Gimel Siv Dalid says this clearly. He makes a distinction by a regular birchas hanenin, you can't make arvos. But here's what the Chiddush Mechaber says. Not only can I make kiddush for a choleh, I can even say a gofen. The gofen is a birchas hanenin? No, not when it's part of kiddush. The Ramah adds a much bigger kiddush. I can even make day kiddush just for someone else. The day kiddush is only gofen, but the day kiddush has become a birchas ha-mitzvos. So you can make kiddush, rather a person healthy for his wife or daughter that missed kiddush by day, even though he's in the middle of the seudah. You made a gofen already? That's the din of arvus. The Shulchan Aruch does add v'hu she'einam yoidim. You can make kiddush for someone else if they can't make their own. Let's say a person's not religious, doesn't know how to make kiddush, or a choleh. Now, the problem is sometimes a woman in the hospital, she can make her own kiddush, but she doesn't want to. She feels it's not her place, then her husband does it. So if you can't convince them, or it doesn't go smoothly, they become an einam yoidim. You know, that's the aside. They don't want to. It doesn't pay the share the shalom bayis. If the woman thinks, I make the seudas and you make the kiddush, that's the job. So go along with it. Now, lamaisa, just make sure that they're being yoitz of the kiddush. Sometimes you have a choleh, either not lucid or not, or dozing off. So if they don't end up being yoitz with the kiddush, and you're not yoitz with the kiddush, it's not your kiddush, so it's a problem. So again, I'm not saying not to make kiddush. Well, the best aids, if you know a person that's not, again, fully lucid, bring along a kazayis of cake, make kiddush for them, it's a big chesed, and eat a kazayis of cake, so then you can't go wrong. Even if they weren't yoitz with the kiddush, but you were yaitz with the kiddush, then you come home again, and you'll make again at home. But again, try to do that chesed. If the person's you're afraid that mamish, they're not going to listen, they doze off, they're not entirely lucid. Again, the eight would be yaitzu with the kiddush that you make, and again at home. For whom could you make kiddush just for them, for the choleh, for example? So it's pashid, a man could make for a man. A volunteer could go from room to room in the hospital and make for kolamoisif for Eza Meshubach, because Lamaisa he's doing a chesed for each man. Can a man make just for a woman? So again, in halacha, there's no problem, because the chiyuv kiddush for women is equal like that to men. So if arvis works from man to man, hu adin for man to woman. However, understandably, it's not done typically, it's not sneistic, that a man should make just for a strange woman. But if there's no one available, and the isha needs kiddush, avada you make kiddush, and you din, that's the din of arvis. Again, more ideally or typically, a woman, a bika choylem should go around from room to room, whoever needs kiddush, whoever woman, and that would be the ideal case. Now, a bigger kiddush is, let's say, the man is the choylem, and he can't make kiddush. So it's pashit kipshutai, his wife, daughter, or any woman for that matter, could make kiddush and be motzi them, because women have the identical chiyuv. Now, a woman cannot blow shayfa for a man because she's not mechuyev, but kiddush she's mechuyev. Now, we all know the Gemara in Brachas Chaf Amud Beis that Tavai Me'era, it's a curse for a person that his wife is moitzi him, because first of all, it's inappropriate, get a better shliach, but the poskim say when there's no other choice, it's not a lack of tznius. If a wife makes for a husband, it's not a lack of chshivas, he can't do it. So it's pashit, kipshutai, the isha, or any woman could make for any man. Again, if a woman that works in Bika Choylem sees a man that no one's making kiddush for him, let her pick up a kais, make kiddush for him, and there's no tavei me'er, that's for sure. The poskim say that Lamaisa, the Mishnah Sivkot Nal quotes a Bach that's not happy about this, women making for men, but Mishnah pasking like that, Abada, if there's no other choice, it can be done, and in such a case, it would be al chatchila. Next question is, when I make just for choleh, who has to drink the wine or grape juice? So this is challenging, because according to the Gaonim, and the Shulchan Aruch quotes the Gaonim in Reish Ayin Aleph. First, in Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Yud Gimel, the Shulchan Aruch says someone has to drink. If no one drinks, you're not yoytze to the kiddush. But more importantly, in Reish Ayin Aleph, Reish Ayin Gimel Sif Dalid, the Mechaber says that Lamaisa, the Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Yudal, I should say, that the Gaonim hold if the Mekadesh doesn't drink the kiddush, he's not yoytze, and no one's yoytze, because the Mekadesh has to drink. So here we come into a more than technical problem, because I am volunteering to make for a choleh, and I'm going home to make my own kiddush. I can't drink from this kiddush that I'm making for a choleh, because I'm not makom seudah. I'm not planning on eating here. So, and the Mechaber says that if you're making kiddush someone else, it's fine, but you can't drink if you're not eating there. So the question is, who's going to drink the wine? I give it to the choleh, but like the Gaonim, you're not yoytze. But it can't, because the same Mechaber that said, like that at least quotes the Gaonim, says I can make for someone else. So here we have a golden Rabbi Kiva Eiga and Reish Ayin Gimel Siv Dalid, and he says, what's the insistence that of the Gaonim that the Mekadesh has to drink? Because since you're being yoytze with the kiddush, so you have to drink. So Rabbi Kiva Eiga, if you're making just for the shaymeya, for the choleh, so who's the Gaonim's insistence? Who has to drink? The choleh. So the chatchila, the choleh could drink, and you don't have to drink at all, and you're yoytze. I once thought maybe this would be a ma'aser shehayim, maybe this would be a right psak. A devoted son made of his mother, but he's eating at home. He says, and after he finished kiddush, he says, "Ma, here, drink and take 2 ounces." So it's malay lugmav. And then he comes, "Oy, what did I do? I spoke out before anybody drank." The halach is when you speak out, then you lose the gafet. So first of all, could be this is considered tzorech of the kiddush. But without that, I thought it's pashit, because hefsik is for the one that has to drink. When would there be a hefsik problem? If the mother spoke out. I talk to Sorab Shloim Zalman and Unalev Gimel and Shmir Shabbos, who says that if the Mekadesh spoke out, it's not a problem. The ik is that the Shaymeya shouldn't speak out. Now, I want to make a point, this is also negeya, but when the Besada Kedushin makes the Gafen by the Seudah Kedushin, and he tells the Chas and Kala, I'm not drinking the wine. Don't forget, it's for you, so be yoitzu with my Gafen. So really, after he makes the Gafen, sometimes he speaks out, but it's not a problem. The ik is that the Chas and Kala should not talk out before they drink the wine. Let's move on to more the Hilchas Kiddush. The day Kiddush, as I told you, even though it's just a Gafen, the Goyin didn't say any pasuk but Gafen, but there's still a din of arvus, and I can make just for someone else. The question is, of course, that if, let's say, the Mekadesh is not eating it, he doesn't want to drink. The Shemeya either can't or doesn't want to drink wine or grape juice. Can I get someone, a random person, another visitor, or in Eretz Yisrael, there's a Yiddish nurses or doctors, can you please be the designated drinker? In other words, I'm not drinking. The chayil is being yaitza, but not drinking. Can someone else drink? So the Shmir Shabbos and Memches Yudal and many other places say this also. That makes no sense. Someone from that's being yaitza has to drink. How does you get a random person to drink? But again, I told him I'm trying to mention any cool that I saw. The Tila David in Siman Ayin Reish Beis, Sivkot and Vav and Zayin, he proves conclusively that really, why does someone have to drink from the Koishel Bracha? We see even on Yom Kippur by a bris, we give it the baby to drink. Why does it have to be? So some shita say it's a gnai if no one drinks. So he says that it's a gnai, and you give it to a baby. A baby's not a bar chiyuva. So maybe for the reason of gnai, you don't need someone that's necessarily being yaitza. The baby's not being yaitza with the gafen. So he says, as long as the one that you call, here's your gafen. Let's say I make kiddush, I tell the drinker, I'm making a gafen, I'm being yaitza you. Don't forget, I'm not drinking, and she's not drinking. Yeah. So then the connection is he's being yaitza with my gafen. So till David, that will be enough. So in the case that the choleh doesn't want to drink and the mekadesh doesn't want to drink, get a person and say, don't forget, I'm making gafen just for you. They could drink and they yoitz. Pashtis or even a cut. That's right, because he's a bar chiyuva. Now to put that lemaisa, again, a volunteer could go from room to room making kiddush for as many people as he can. This is the mitzvah of arvus. But there's another unusual halacha that we encounter in this scenario. Let's say I make shahako and I'm moitzi you. I could do that, right? I'm moitzi myself, moitzi you. So even if you don't say amein, you yoitzi with my shahako. Typically by kiddush, you yoitzi even though you don't say amein. But if you look at Shulchan Aruch earlier in Reish Yutes Siv Dalar and Hey twice, the Mechaber speaking about goimel says, I can make goimel even though I'm fine, making moitzi someone that went through a terrible sickness. And he's yoitza if he says amein. And twice the Mechaber says he's yoitza if he says amein. For example, Kiva Ega of Hanort, why does he have to say amein? The same Mechaber says in Sifei that you yoitza shemeka oinu without saying amein. So why do you have to say amein? So Kiva Ega says a kiddush that if I make a bracha of myself kiddush and I'm moitzi you, so you yoitza without saying amein. Shemeka oinu. But if I'm making it just for someone else, I'm not being yaitza with that, I'm making goimel just for you, then there has to be some connection. And without amein, there's no din of shemei koina.
Shemei koina is not good. The oina is not using the bracha.
Why? Right? He doesn't say amein. Even though he wants to be yaitza with it. But the point is, if you don't say amein for some reason, there's no connection. And Mishnah Berurah brings this in Sifkat and Yud Aleph. Okay, others question it, what's the Peshat? But Rabbi Kiva says, the Mishnah Berurah brings it, so definitely we have to keep in mind, whenever you're making a bracha just for someone else, again, typically it's not done, but when it happens, tell the person nicely. Now don't scare the poor chayil, don't forget to say amein, they'll get all nervous. Say nicely, please say amein, and then everything will work fine. Again, the same with true Masada Kedushin, I must mention. Masada Kedushin tell the chas and challah, I'm making the gafen just for you. Don't make your own gafen. And say amein. But they're so nervous they forget, and they make their own bracha, they don't say amein. You know how it is sometimes. But typically that's the right way to do it. Now a katan in a hospital, should have been negeya, but basically has a chiyuv d'Rabbanan to make kiddush. It's not a deraisa because they're a katan. Is there arvis for a katan? The answer is avada. Because the Shulchan Aruch says in Reish Tezvav Gimel, I could teach my child how to make a bracha, and I could say the Shem Hashem. Avad is Chiyav Chinuch in all brachas. Zok the Mishnah Reish Ayin Gimel Sifkat Tezayin. So therefore, I can make kiddush for another man or child, because Arvis works even for a katan. So again, I can make for a boy or a girl under bar bas mitzvah along their giyah lechinuch. Now, you're wondering what is the age of chinuch that they're mechuyev, because when they're still young babies, there's no in chinuch. So attempt to say what's you don't need so old. I mean, what's the big deal? Pick up a kais and make a guffin and drink. But it's not true, because the Magen Avram in Shin Mem Gimel and Mishnah Berurah quotes it. In other words, it's not, chinuch is not just to rattle off a few words and drink grape juice. It's to be mekadesh to Shabbos. You have to understand what Shabbos is all about. And probably that's why the Mishnah Berurah in Reish Samach Tes give cotton aleph. It's regarding making kiddush in shul on Friday night, and you give it to a cotton gil chinuch to drink. He says the age of chinuch is 6 or 7 years old. Why not 4 or 5? How smart do you have to be to say kiddush? The teretz is not a question of saying kiddush. It has to be caught na'yodeya inyan Shabbos. Now, I did see the Shmir Shabbos in Nun Ches Yutes. He says the age is 5 or 6, but the Mishnah Berurah seems to say it's a little later, because it has to be understand the kedusha Shabbos. The Mekar Chaim Lechavas Yor in Siman Reish Samach Tes, he says the age of chinuch is 8 or 9. So we see it's probably not before 6 or 7. Now the right answer is like the Paiskim say, choleh lefi chorfei. Don't forget, what kind of age is that? 5 or 6? Make up your mind. 6 or 7? Make up your mind. Teretz is every child is different, but definitely when the child is higil lechinuch, I could make just for the child, because that's part of my chiyav arvis even to ketanim. Now, can a katan be moitzi an adult? Now, avada to send a young anikel to make for the zayda is not respectful. You go yourself. But let's say, whatever reason, they only have a cotton available. So the problem is that the choleh has a chiyav deraisa kiddush, at least b'dvarim, and the katan is only darbanan. Oh, so there's a simple eitzah. Let the choleh daven or say vayechulu. So now you yoytzer the deraisa b'dvarim. What's the choleh left with? The Rabbanan al kais, and the child is the Rabbanan, so the Rabbanan with the Rabbanan. The only problem is the child that davens, so now you run into a suffix of trade Rabbanan, which is not so pashut. But better to get an adult. It's appropriate for chol to have a chosh of a person be moitzi. Question, fascinating question, but it comes up. A volunteer wants to go to make kiddush for a chol that's forsaken, he has no one else, but he can't make it because the time doesn't work out. So he wants to make it a half hour before Shkia. The chayil, of course, will be Makabel Shabbos, and typically in the hospital, he's already getting his seudah Shabbos. He's going to make kiddush for the chayil. The chayil will be in 7th heaven, and then he's going to drive home. He can't make it home in time if he walks. So a funny situation, I'm a bar chayuva, but to me it's Friday. I'm still davening mincha, I'm having tayameha. So can I be moitzi a chayil? For him it's Shabbos, for me it's not. So, how do you look at that child? I mean, many chaplains in the hospital, the rabbis' chaplains, they do it every Friday afternoon. So again, we have another golden Rabbi Kivega. Kivega is in Reish Samach Zayin in the beginning. He says, this is not a new scenario. Mamish the Shaila. The Yerushalmi in Megillah, Perik Beis, Halacha Gimel, has a Shaila. It's almost Mishanich Zad Mar B'Simcha, but it's a Purim Shaila. Someone who lives in a city that's not a Mekafin Chayma, so his Purim is Yudalid. So the Shalmi says, can a Ben Yudalid lay in the Megillah for a Ben Krach in Tezvav? Because he's Jewish, he's not a guy, he's Bar Chiyuva, but it's the wrong day. And the Shalmi says no, because his Purim was Yudal, not Tezvav. So Kivega, maybe that would be analogous to our Shahila. But he says it's not true, because a Ben Yudalit can have a Chiyav Ben Tezvav, at least this year. But you, Erev Shabbos Yid, you could just be Makabel Shabbos on the spot and make Kiddush. So Reb Kivega leaves it Tzarchi and Ladina. Now, let me tell you, when Reb Kivega says Tzarchi and Ladina, it's Tzarchi and Ladina, period. That's why Rav Shlomo Zalman and Shlomo has a long tshuva and Chelik Aleph Siman Gimel, Rav Sternbuch and Beis Kuf Samach Tes, and they're both skeptical to say that it could be done. But they, L'maisa Tzarchin Ladina, if there's no other choice, L'chayra, it would make sense that the Mavaka should do it. But I want to make a point also, what best would be, if he could work it out, that is, that he won't do any real malachas. That's what Sternbuch writes in the Tshuvas. After he makes kiddush, let him get into a goyish car service. And, okay, paying maybe is a little of a problem. He'll pay before, whatever it is, but work it out that he gets someone driving him home. Being in the car is not necessarily a malacha. But if it's mamish, for the importance of the choleh, we definitely have a tzad to be makel. Seudah Shabbos, usually a very enjoyable mitzvah. But for a choleh that's hard to eat, it's hard for him to eat, and he barely could eat a minimum. So I want to be very clear. The seudah Shabbos deraisa, the ik is not the cholent or the kugel or the fish. The ik is one thing. Zok the mechab and reish ayin dalid tziv dalid, a little more than a kabeya of pas. A person can have enough food that it gets a stomachache till Tuesday. But if he doesn't have a kabeya of pas, he wasn't yoytze the seudah. Reish Sadik Aleph, Sif Aleph, again the Shulchan Aruch says, L'kayim oisa mi kabeya, and Magen Ram said a little more than a kabeya. Why? I stam achil is a kazayis. The teretz is that since it's a din of seudah, there's no seudah less than a little more than a kabeya. Now that's not so much. A half a slice of a center rye, a slice of rye bread would be a kabeya. But Zok the Rav in Reish Ayin Dalet Sif Hey, if a person ate kol minim adamin uminit avshilin and didn't have a kabeya plus of pas, he was not yoy to the seudah. So basically, the choleh should concentrate on the ikka. Let him have a kabeya plus. If he can't eat other foods, no, is nisht. You know, okay. The Kavachayim says al pisoid you should have fish by all the three seudas. Okay, but the ikka is more than a kabeya of pas. I'm more worried about healthy people. Today there's so much to eat. They eat a bite here and a zeichel chorban here. If you don't have a kabeya, then besides the fact that the Til Sedayim bracha was unwarranted, because you don't make a bracha unless than a kabeya, but you're not yoytze the seudah. So the choleh should focus on what's the ikka, have a kabeya plus of pas, and whatever more they could eat is hakol revach. If a person could only eat a kazayis, I must mention, it's interesting, not b'mekoyma, but the Mishnah Berurah in Hilchos Sukkah writes in Tov Reish Lamed Tes Sif Katan Chav Gimel that kazayis you could be yoytze. Really, kabeh is only for extra mitzvah. Okay, so a choleh that can only eat a kazayis, we have what to be seimechan, but not to make the bracha al natilas yodayim. A choleh that missed the seudah Friday night, it could be after birth of a child, childbirth, or stam after an operation. It happens very often. They fell asleep, woke up the next morning. So here we come to another rare halacha. It's a first halacha in Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Ches, that if a person did not make kiddush Friday night, they make the kiddush, the night kiddush by day. Of course, you don't say vayechulu like the Mishnah Berurah, because that's only a leil Shabbos mitzvah, but you make the full kiddush of Shabbos without the vayechulu. Then they also have a rare mitzvah by day to try, if possible, to have 3 seudas. 3 seudas is not a din in leil and yom; it's a din in 3 seudas. I wondered, when they make the kiddush the night kiddush, do they make another kiddush to make up for the kiddush rabbah that they're not going to make l'chayra? But the Zalman says no. Once you have the day, by day you have the night kiddush. That's enough. There's yesh b'chal masay yemanim. If you don't have lechem mishna, no, so fafalin. That's not ma'akiv. But there's a fascinating question that has to be mentioned because people don't realize this. Let's say a person's in a hospital and they give these slices of challah. So you have 2 or more slices of challah, but there's no shalim. So it's pashit b'li safik. Shulchan says it in Sif Hey of Hilchos lechem mishna. It's Reish Ayin Dalet that the ikka is 2 mishna, like the mon fell double. So if there's no 2 shleimim, take 2 shvar. In fact, if you have one shalom and 1 shever, you add it up. The chiddush is, and I saw this in the Shmir Shabbos, Nun Hey, and Vav, and he's 100% right. Let's say you have a big piece of challah, but it's not a shalom. So it's kedai to break it in half and have 2 pieces. Oh, the only shayla which is challenging, let's say someone has 1 bilkula. So mitzad echad, he should break it in half. So he'll have 2 pieces. But then again, you have to make a motzi on the shalom. So it's interesting, the Shulchan Aruch and Reish Ayin Dal Aleph says, Beitzei al shtei kikreis, period. There are more adds shleimus. But a shleimus is not a din in lechem mishna, it's a din in bracha. So the Netziv is quoted, the Chazitzchak in Chelik Yud Siman Chavdal discusses this, that if you have the shalom in your hand, you can't break it up, because you have to make a bracha on the shalom. But the person that brought it to you should have been smarter, and broken it before he brought it to you, then you can make the bracha on 2 shvarim, and you have lechem mishna, albeit not shleimus. And the last group of questions is definitely va'achrein hichbid, and that is the most challenging, and that is havdalah in a hospital, and particularly for women. So for men, basically havdalah is like kiddush. It's they can make it, or someone might see them. The question is regarding women, and women really basically have 3 shilas. Can they make their own havdalah? Can they insist the husband make just for them? And in the worst scenario, when the husband is sick, can the isha, his wife, make just for him? So the question boils down to is havdalah like kiddush? If we could do havdalah like kiddush, so whatever we said by kiddush is true for havdalah. And we taka said, the woman could make her own kiddush, a man can make just for a woman, and a woman can make for a man. All 3 shilas are perfectly mutter. So if havdalah is like kiddush, so who adin? If for some reason havdalah is an independent mitzvah, then we have to rethink what to do. So why should I think havdalah is like kiddush? I guess a very childish approach. Well, it's the same thing. You hold the kais and you say a few words and you drink. But maybe taka, havdalah is an independent mitzvah. But I'll tell you why havdalah might be an integral part of kiddush. Because this might sound like a paradox, but it's not. The greatest kiddush is havdalah. What does kiddush mean? You mekadosh the Shabbos, the greatness of Shabbos. But you know what a greater kiddush of Shabbos is? Look at me a Motzei Shabbos, I'm falling apart. Vai of the nefesh, I need hatzalah, first aid, but I'll take p'samim at least. Hopefully that'll get me back. But the greatest kiddush is hamavda mekadosh l'chol. So if we could say that the havdalah is the kiddush on Motzei Shabbos, then we're back to square one. Nashim chayavas b'kiddush, they can make for men can make for women. And who says this? Not me, the Rambam. In the beginning of Perik Chavtes, mitzasei min atari l'kadosh es yom HaShabbos b'dvarim, b'tzarach l'zachrei b'knisasai, u'v'yitziyasai, b'knisasai b'kiddush, u'v'yitziyasai b'havdalah. Zok the Kesef Mishnah, the Rambam holds that havdalah is an integral part of kiddush. Once it's part of kiddush, then women are chayiv. And an isha could make for a man. And a man could make just for an isha. All 3 shilas, Allah hakol, like by kiddush. That's the sheet of the Shiltism of Zayis HaBracha. The Chinuch Alam Aleph goes with this Rambam sheet. However, the Beis Yosef, in the end of Reish Tzadik Vav, he quotes an Orchos Chaim, one of the Rishonim, that Nashim ein mavdilas la'atzman. Havdalah is not totally in Shmir Shabbos. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan that women are pata. So he's saying 2 chedushim. The Rambam says Havdalah is d'Oraisa, and it's going to get to women. The Orchos Chaim is saying it's a Motzei Shabbos mitzvah and Nashim are pata. And the Bach explains it like I explained it to you, that either it's part of kiddush, so Nashim are like men, or it's an independent Motzei Shabbos mitzvah, and then it's a Zman Grama, and Nashim are pata. How do we paskin? Very timely question. So the Mechaber in the end of Reish Tzadik Vav, Nashim chayavas b'havdalah, kishem shechayavas b'kiddush, which is obviously the Rambam. Then the Shulchan Aruch adds, v'yesh mi shechoylik. So if you know the style of the Mechaber, how is he really paskining? Like the first shita. Now, what's very troubling, the Ramah comes along and adds, Al Kain, since the Mechaber quoted a shita, the Nashim Apata, Lo Yavdilu La'atzman, Rak Yishmo Havdalah Min HaNashim. So the Mechaber seems to hold that women are chayiv, but he mentions the Mekilim. The Ramah seems to endorse the shita that Apata. But he says, beferish, women should not make havdalah. So this aversion that women have to making havdalah is not unfounded. It's based on a Ramah. Now, the question, the pella with the Ramah is, even if they're potter, but why can they have havdalah anyhow? They make a bracha on lulav, at least on the Shei Ashkenaz make on lulav and shayfa and sukkah. And the Bach is extremely critical of this Ramah. He writes a sharp lashon, shari leimare. The Rosh says, Michael, what the Ramah? Why did he say they can't make havdalah? Why is it worse than a zman grama? And he says, and therefore I believe, halacha, they can make their own havdalah, even if they can listen to their husband. But women are no different than any other zman grama, that even if they're potter, they can make their own. Now, Lamaisa, the Ramah did not forget this simple yisoid. So, the Zok the Magen Avram, that when there's a mitzvah like shayfa, lulav, and sukkah, so they do it, and then they can make a bracha once they're doing it. But when there's no ma'isa mitzvah, it's only the bracha, like by havdalah, who said they could do it? If they're potter. Just like they don't make kiddush levana, I let them be ein mitzvah, but you don't do a bracha when you're potter from the bracha. Others say a different chilek. When there's a daraisa to do a mitzvah, then women could adapt it ein mitzvah. But since havdalah is the rabbanon, so maybe there's no svara of ein mitzvah. But at the end of the day, let me be very clear. The Magen Avram, the end of Streish Sadivav, says va'ika kedivrei habach, that really, he argues on the Ramah, that even if women are potter, they have the option of making their own. But what's most important, the Mishnah Berurah and Sif Katan Lam and Hey, he says the Bach Paskins, not like the Ramah, and the Magen Avram goes with that. He says, but let's not forget. And here the Mishnah Berurah reminds us of something that is very much misunderstood. He says, but there's another problem with a woman making havdalah, and that is the Magen Avram quotes a shlah that women should not drink the wine of havdalah. Now, I don't know how this mustache business got into the picture, but Lamaisa, it's a shlah, and I saw the other achrayim say a different reason that women should dafka not drink wine of havdalah. The Big Day Yesha says another svar why they shouldn't drink the wine of havdalah. Al pi Kabbalah, the Har Tzvi says al pi halach. I'm not going to get into that now, but there's no doubt about it. Women should not drink the wine of havdalah. So therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, so if according to the Ramah they're not supposed to, and they shouldn't drink the wine, so therefore, ideally, women should not make havdalah. And that's why women are correct in their reluctance to make havdalah. But, says the Mishnah Berurah, in the next Sif Katan, Lamed Vav, let's say the man already made havdalah, and the woman didn't have havdalah, and what should she do? So he says, how could the man make just for her? It doesn't make sense, because could be she's not mechuyev. So avada, she should make her own havdalah, and drink the wine. Now, he doesn't explain why, because it's not an issa, it's not sakana, it's an inyan. The Chashulchan in Sif Hey says, if the man made havdalah, let the woman make havdalah, and there's no doubt about it, pashit, you can't be doicha mitzvah havdalah because of an inyan. So if the man already made havdalah, or the woman's alone and she has no one to make havdalah, make her own havdalah and drink gezuntahei. Nothing's going to happen. You know, the lechem ayosh, the Trumas Hadeshen, says every mitzvah Shabbos he made havdalah, and he gave to everybody, his wives, his daughters, his granddaughters. They all drank havdalah. So nothing's going to happen, I guarantee. So the way to do it is men make for women. As I daf zayin. If there's no man around, there's no grushin almana, make her own. But let's say, for whatever reason is she can't make her own. So Mishnah Berurah says that's a problem, because if you hold that women are potter, then there's no arvus. So he says maybe she shouldn't make. They should make for her. But he quotes a Zechar Avram and a Birka Yosef that mi'ikadadin women are chayiv and havdalah. Let's get that straight. That's the Mechaber Shita. So if need be, a man can make just for a woman, because we go with the assumption that women are chayiv. So it's a very clear. L'chatchila, we avoid it. Even her making havdalah. B'di'eved, you can even make just for her. But again, the drinking is not the deciding factor. If she drinks, nothing will happen, guaranteed. I always say this. Last year we had Pesach fell on Shabbos and Sunday. I didn't want to tell the women that, But the kais of kiddush was also havdalah. And they all drank, and I haven't seen any mustaches around. So obviously the whole thing is not a problem. Now, the next question is a little more challenging. Let's say she wants to make, fine, but she refused to drink. You tell her, but she's not going to listen. Can she get someone to drink for her? Get her husband, her son. So the emissaries, we said earlier, some are mekel, even by kiddush, to get a designated drinker, as long as the yaitz with the gafen. But I must mention, regarding havdalah, there's more v'tzat to be mekel. Because some hold that b'chlal, that you don't have to dafka drink the havdalah wine. Now we are chayshish, but there's definitely more v'tzat to be mekel for someone else to drink the havdalah wine for her. I would advise she should make havdalah, drink a drop, nothing will happen, and then you zicha yaitza, and someone else will drink more than that. Now, if she doesn't want to make b'shemayf, she can't. So again, the Mishnah is mekel. The Aruch HaShulchan's lashon is muta mitzvah for a man to make just for her. The biggest chiddush, but it's pashut also. Let's say the man is sick. He's in the hospital. There's no volunteers around. Only his wife is there. So believe it or not, she could get a kais, whatever it is, make havdalah for herself, and even be motzi a man. The Shmir Shabbos in Nunches Ayin Zayin says that b'shas adchak we have to hold that women are chayiv and havdalah. Now, I did see the Rav in Sif Yotes says women cannot be motzi men in havdalah because we're still chayish that they're not mechuyev. But Rav Shtein Zalman says it, and I believe b'shas adchak you could follow zich avad Rav Shtein Zalman. So here we see three shilas: an isha making her own, a man making just for a woman, or a woman motzi a man. All three lechatchila avoid it. B'di'evet lechatchila. You could be yaitza. And in the hospital, don't make the women into b'di'evet case. Say, I'll make for you, fine. If they can't make it on their own, make it for them. I'll tell you even more so. Rav Vosna in Chelik Dald was asked by a woman, her husband davens in the furthest yeshiva possible, and he comes home an hour after this man, and she's starving, and what should she do? Could she eat before havdalah? Rav Vosna said, why eat before havdalah? Just make havdalah. In fact, I saw a bigger chiddush in Chelik Vav Mem Beis. Someone asked Rav Vosna that the wife was a choleh. She couldn't come down to the sukkah to hear the husband's havdalah. It was downstairs in the backyard, and so one Rav told this fellow he should make in the house and drink wine out of the sukkah. You rely that it's not mechuyev in sukkah. Rav Vosna says, why do that? Let him make in the sukkah, and she makes it in the house. You see, the poskim know that we try to avoid it, but when it comes to it, there's no choice. So there's no choice. Rely on the Mechaba, the Rambam, and many Rishayim that it's mutter. Now, I personally told this to someone, a young almana, and she told me every Mitzvah Shabbos was an ordeal. She has to go to hear havdalah by a man. But the neighbor, somebody's not home, so she has to go a different neighbor. She has to call, dress the kids, get them in the car. So every Shabbos becomes a choshech because of the Mitzvah Shabbos, and every Shabbos is a reminder of her terrible situation. I told her, live al tzavore, make your own havdalah, and she still benches me for that. You make at home, you're not toil asachem, you have to go here and there. Mi'ikad din, if it's very difficult, we have the ikad din that you can make your own havdalah. Now, lamaisa, in this case, Taka, I would advise her, she should make havdalah and give it to her son. This way, avoid at least that issue of not drinking. Now, the emissaries, some would say maybe the son, if he's a gil chinuch, should be motzi the mother. Because here we have a derabanan, but it's not true, because really she's a deraisa. If she's chayiv, she's a deraisa. So it could be what she should do is say, Baruch HaMavdlah ben kiddush t'choil. So she's a derabanan, because havdalah al kais is a derabanan, so maybe that would be an eitzah. But the ikka is, nutzan a bissel seichel and a bissel hearts to make a woman every Mitzvah Shabbos to go through this ordeal. I think probably there's not enough of a reason for that. Now, lamaisa, when a girl missed havdalah and she tells the father, but you have to make for me, I don't know if that's right. Let the girl make herself. Now, because she could make herself. Now, if the wife gives the husband ultimatum, I know I could make, but you're making havdalah for me, so Shalom Bayis dictates make havdalah for her and rely on the ikad din. Now, in the Shei Svarad, who followed the psakim of the Mechaba, it's interesting. Mitzad Echad, they're better off, because for the Svardim, the Mechaba l'chayra holds and Asher Machayev. And Taki Abiyah and Dal Chav Dal and Arletzian and Chav Beis Gimel in the Minig and Shei Svard that we'll make the one havdalah. Now the chiddush to me was the Kaf HaChaim in Reish Tzaddik Vav Sif Kot Nun Hey. He says an Isha makes havdalah only below Shem U'Malchus. Because Nashim, Sfaradim are very busy with Sabal, Sav Gras Lahakal. And since the Mechaber brings two Shittis, so it's Sabal. But it's not Mistavra, because there's an Achra. And Taka, Tzion and Yabi Oima both say it's an Achra. So Neshei Svarad have an easier deal regarding women making havdalah. Now, our question that we began with, the woman's in a Manhattan hospital, there's no havdalah, it's not a big friendly type of hospital. So basically, what I told him is that really she can make her own havdalah. But if she wants to, there's two other options. Number one, she could extend the seudas, not say Baruch Hamavdal. If it's practical, continue eating. So then the only problem is she wants to eat and doesn't want to fast for 2 hours. Or, which is halachadik, since she's after childbirth, the first 3 days she's a choleh, she's takana, she's allowed to eat without havdalah. Now, I was a little concerned because Lamaisa, eating before havdalah has a certain chayim more than before kiddush of the sakana of eating. But Mishnah Berurah says beferish that a choleh in Reish Tzaddik Vav Chaf Aleph, according to Rav, that a choleh could eat before havdalah. So I told them better would be, again, if she can make her own if she wants to, but if she doesn't want to, then she could wait for you to make havdalah, and she could eat before havdalah, like as a chayil. Now, a very geshmaka shayla is, in any case that a woman is either making havdalah, or I'm making just for a woman, does she also make the bracha of ner? Now, you're wondering, what's the shayla? So here again, it's a beautiful part of this shir. The Magen Avraham says that if I'm making for a woman, the real problem is with the havdalah, so I make just for a woman. But there's no problem with the gafen or psamim because it's birchas hanana. So to be Allah in the end of Reish Tzaddik Vav, he said gafen and psamim. Why did he mention there's no problem with the ner? He left it out. So he says that geshmaka yisoid. He says could be ner women are potter. Even if they're chayiv in havdalah, there could be potter from ner. How could that be? Very pashut. Havdalah is a Motzei Shabbos mitzvah. But it's really part of kiddush. So Nashim HaChayav is like the Rambam. But ner is not part of havdalah per se. Because if you don't have ner, you make havdalah without ner. Motzei Shabbos Tisha B'Av, we make ner and no havdalah, right? If you miss havdalah, you can make it till Tuesday. But ner only till Sunday morning. What's the pshat? Ner is a Motzei Shabbos mitzvah. That's not part of kiddush. So what is it really? A bona fide Zman Grama. So the Mishnah Berurah tues off and bi'alacha that the potter from there, even if they're chayiv and havdalah. Now, no one says it before him, and even he says it, l'chara, this would make sense. But this has a great impact. That means that leil seudah, the women, if they do say the kiddush together with the men, they shouldn't say the bracha of ner. Or better yet, sometimes the men, especially by chassidim, the men makes all the brachas, and the women make their own brachas. They make the bracha of samim and ner. Why are they doing that? So Rav Moshe in Choshen Mishpat Beis Mem Zayin says that the Mishnah Berurah is not muchach at all, because lamaisa it's not a birchas hamitzvos, it's a birchas haidah. Birchas haidah is not limited to Zman Grama. It's just that's when you have the mitzvah. It seemed that the minig Yisrael is that the women do make the bracha of ner. Again, before the Mishnah Berurah, no one mentioned this. Now, just a few tidbits I wanted to mention. In a hospital, typically there's no eish. Of course, you could light two matches and make a cool bracha quickly, but it's a chil Hashem and it's not right. So, what happens if there's no ner? Nothing. So, you eat without it. The man goes home after making havdalah for his wife in the hospital, let him make a bracha until Sunday morning. B'samim typically, unless you bring it in advance, is not in a hospital. To make on synthetic is not a good idea. It's not really a chiyuv. If you have a bouquet of flowers that has a very strong natural smell, not a spray, you can make a bracha on that. Roses, typically we make atzei b'samim, but the minig of Ashkenazim is by every havdalah we always make bar minei b'samim. And the last question, which is a mitzvah lefarsim, is it an option to anybody, chayla, not chayla, isha, almana, grush, whatever it is, to be yotza havdalah over a telephone? So we discussed this at length, that really over telephone, you're not hearing the real havdalah, or any bracha for that matter. Especially today's with the analog voice, it's a whole different way of the phone working. It breaks up the voice into little small digital pockets and transfers it. But it's not the original voice. So most poskim hold anything over the phone is not better than nothing, it's nothing. You're not hearing it from a bar chiyuva. Rav Moshe in Chelik Beis Kuf Ches regarding Megillah and Chelik Dalet Tzadik Aleph regarding havdalah seems to say maybe they could be yotzim. But I want to tell you what I know this from two Eidus Nemanim. Rav Moshe La'alocha did not go with that. In fact, he was asked, Rabbi had in a sefer, says he sent a shliach to Rav Moshe, and what's better, an isha should hear havdalah over the telephone from her father, or make her own? Don't forget, there must not to make her own. He goes, better make your own. But a bigger chiddush Reb Reuven, Zayin Gezun, the son was made, someone made for an old almana every Mitzvah Shabbos. 1 week he was out of town, so he said he could either make havdalah over the phone for the almana, or Sunday morning when he gets back, he'll go special, make for her on Sunday morning. A double chsaron, Sunday morning, and a man for a woman. Moshe says better Sunday morning. So over the phone is not an option, better find other options. I got some talk to you all. Better for listening.
Shame irgendwie wird like you big as a character Smith for today's share. Kann ich meine Kasche mal so groß Bogel Sache ist es soll viel haben am Teil mit so einmal der neue Halachos und man sieht go ja du terbe ja.
Hey.
Amen. As a Hashem, we should be these halachos with learning them, and it shouldn't have to become lamaisa. So the seeking of the halachos when they get at the hospital on Shabbos.
Just let's chazar what we learned today. First of all, the importance of doing a mitzvah for choleh besides chesed and arvus is pashid and machai nefashis. We should try whatever possible to do whenever possible. But the basic halacha is kiddush nashim achayev like men, no suffix. They can make their own. They can be motzi, women, and need be even men. It's not so hard to make kiddush, a cup that has 4+ ounces, or even 3.3 b'shas adchak, and even disposable cup, and drink 2 ounces of grape juice. That's all you need. The choleh, the one that's mekadosh, doesn't have to drink from at all. The ik is that the choleh has to drink. A choleh that cannot eat or drink, pashut, either on a feeding tube or an intravenous, is not chayiv in kiddush. No inyan to hear kiddush if you're not chayiv in kiddush. In tefillah, they should have in kavana, whether it's Shemay Nestor or Vayachulu or any praise of Shabbos, to be yoitza, the kiddush deraisa, like we do on Yom Kippur Shechal b'Shabbos. There is an option making kiddush ala pas, as we described it, or even a big big cake that's enough to be considered a kviyas seudah. Leil Shabbos, someone that's going to visit a choleh and needs to eat something to the long walk home, they could be yoitza by eating a kazayas of cake or a revius of wine, and they can actually be yoitza with that kiddush. There is arvus for men and women. We're not choishiv with the night Yehuda's big kiddush, but basically a man can make for a woman or vice versa. Of course, dinei tznius and other things you make for the same gender, but b'shas adchak, or certainly for a relative, a man can make for a woman or vice versa. Even for a katan agil lechinuch, a kiddush should be made, because there is arvus for a katan agil lechinuch. Typically the shemeya drinks not the mekadesh, and that's good enough even like the go'onim, because the ikka is the one that's being yoitza. If the mekadesh was mafsik before the shemeya drank, it's not a problem. It's, according to some, the halacha is be'ikka that the person that's being yoitza has to drink. A volunteer can go from room to room and theoretically make tens of kiddush Friday night and be yoitza the 10 grace mitzvahs. The age of chinuch should be approximately 6 or 7 years old. If churfei, a cotton could be motzi an adult if they're both the rabbanans. If the adult made kiddush b'dvarim, then they have a rabbanan with the rabbanan. B'shas adchak, someone who's not yet makabel Shabbos will say that he's mechuyev in a mitzvah, just he didn't do it yet, but he could make kiddush for a choleh who's ready in Shabbos. Seudah Shabbos, the ik is a little more than a kebeya of pas, or b'shas adchak a kazayis, but then you don't make it till dayan bracha. If a person missed kiddush and seudah Friday night, make kiddush by day without the vayechulu, and 3 seudas should be had by day. 2 pieces are good for lechem mishna. 1 whole challah, it's a question, should you break it or not? But 2 pieces, or 1 challah and 1 piece, is definitely a good enough lechem mishna. Lechatchila, nashim don't make or drink havdalah. That's true. That's fact. We try to avoid it. But if need be, women can make their own havdalah. A woman could make just for a man, and a man can make just for a woman when need be. In those cases, of course, the one that's making havdalah should drink. If it's the woman, she has to drink as well. We saw a fascinating shayla about Motzi Yom Kippur or Sukkot, that in such a case do halacha and let the woman make their own havdalah. An amana or grusha that finds it hard to go, always find people to have to, like a tzedakah case, could make her own. An isha is yoitza with a cotton if they're both the rabbanans. Neshei svarad have it easier regarding havdalah. In a Manhattan hospital, someone stuck in the hospital, they could eat without havdalah, they don't have to wait for till the man comes to make havdalah for them. The shaila of ner by havdalah is a tricky issue, but the minhag seems to be the nashim are considered chayiven in ner. Eish will be without eish, make when you get home. Besamim also, and over the telephone should definitely be avoided.